Hello, hello. Whoa, where did my voice go? Hello, hello. Hello, welcome to the House Medium. I'm Adele Levine, your House Medium. This is another episode. This is episode 80. I'm about 20 episodes away from 100. Yes, I'm excited about that because I'm thinking of doing an in-person podcast. So I'm going to be probably looking soon, probably in the next 10 episodes, for somebody or a couple of people to record and I have a space now where I could do this at and have you all come in the live audience and we can answer some questions about things and have maybe me read you a little bit on air. And that could be cool for those of you in the LA area. And for those of you not in the LA area, you'll be able to watch via, Zoom. This is my plan for the 100th episode. Let me know what you think. For those of you who are new and going, 100, I don't even know you at all. I'm Adele Levine. I am an intuitive and a medium. I've been practicing professionally for over 20 years. And wow, it's just kind of like what I say. I say that so many times. Oh, wait, my little magic. Excuse me. Okay, my voice is. There we go. My voice is going. I'm trying to put my little magic lights on. How come they're not coming on? Technical. It's always something. There we go. I just wasn't. There we go. For those of you watching, I have my little lights on. For those of you who are listening, it looks the same. Okay. If you just to remind you, if you don't know already, I have a YouTube channel. I am now posting full podcasts on there so you can watch. I know a lot of people tend to kind of watch and listen, meaning like they put the video on and they say they just kind of get, do about business. I do the same thing on TikToks, but sadly TikToks are too short. So I kind of like the same thing as something kind of playing. Um, so those of you who are new to my podcast, I've been practicing for over 20 years. I don't know what happened. I started talking. I've been talking all morning. I was fine. And then all of a sudden everything went haywire. And I was talking last night because I went to a wonderful wedding last night with my two friends. They finally got married. Um, they are now husbands and husband, and I'm so excited for them. I love them so much. They're not, I don't know if they want, I don't think they mind, but I never like throw people out on my podcast. Even though one of them is an actor and they're a public person, unless, I prepared them for it. So I'll just say shout out to BNK. Congratulations. It was a wonderful, intimate wedding. And last night, people ask me what I do and I tell them. And, when you do this work, of course, it's not like an average job. And even though I'm in LA, okay, what happened? What happened? Okay, hold on. I'm trying to move away from the mic. Here we go. Even though I'm in LA and people do all kinds of weird things here, have weird careers because most people are actors and such, or they're directors or in production. Still, what I do tops the weird factor. So people usually have a lot of questions. And when I was telling, people, oh, this is what I've been doing for over 20 years, it was just like, wow, that's crazy. I've been doing this for over 20 years of my life. Yes. So this is what I do. I professionally do, and I professionally read intuitive and medium. Someone said last night, they're like, oh, how often do you do this? I'm like, every day, because it's what I do full time. And on this podcast, though, I invite you, the listener, to send in your story via email. If you have a paranormal experience, and then I have you on and I tell you what I see it was. Reminding everyone, I really, really need feedback and reviews and even just something because it's been, it's hard getting this out. If you're not paying a lot of money to promote, and I'm not going on a million other podcasts. It is harder to do it the way I'm doing it, which is kind of more getting it around word of mouth or people start discover you. So having reviews helps a lot, interacting with this podcast via my Instagram or even hashtagging it. Not that I expect you to hashtag, but things like this help me. So I'm just reminding everyone. Um, with that said, I totally forgot, and you're gonna see by my behind the scenes. We have to go. We have to go. I have this other podcast now. When Starbucks was fun. So now when we record, sometimes I take away my little, you know, sound effects that I love so much. And then I'm realizing, wait a minute, where's my stuff? Because we have to go into my coffee shop, the Medium Brew Cafe. Hello. Because that's the coffee shop that matters. Just saying. Anyway, and we need to talk about some things because I have a few announcements, and few things to just kind of go over. So let's go to the Medium Brew. Welcome to my land. Hello. What do I want to say? Patrons. Okay, so speaking of patrons, I have a Patreon, and I love that you guys are joining, and some of you are figuring out that I have a Sacred Scholar tier now, where for only $5 more, you get a class every month. Plus, I do energy climates daily. And if people who are new don't know what an energy climate is, I kind of give you the energy of the world. Speaking of the world, it has been bumpy, right? It has been interesting times, has it not? Have I not been talking to you all about that this is going to be a wacky time? I'm telling you, like, you're going to see things are going to come from all different ends. Every day there may be something new. Be prepared from now till January. It's going to be like you're on a Mr. Toad wild ride. You're on it, and those of you who don't love that ride, which I do, it's at Disneyland. Um, I don't know why I love it, because it's a crazy, crazy ride. But I love all the Fantasyland. Anyway, I digress. So it is it is going to be like this. Yes, I'm talking about all the things that is happening in the news, all the things that have been happening in the past few weeks. I'm not surprised. I'm trying to prepare people, but also don't be afraid, because we're going through change and we're having radical change in our world. Radical. I can't even stress the word radical enough. And because it's going to be radical change in the world, you're going to see things, just being very crazy and all over the place. But it's going to be good in the end. So people who join my Patreon, you get all those things. You see, I know how to try to keep it flowing. You also get 35% off of my readings anytime you want. Speaking of readings, this Friday, I am doing in-person reading in a room called the Seance Room, in a place that has different rooms, different theme rooms, i.e., it's kind of like the beehives I've been talking about. If you've been following my work, you know that I talk about these beehives that I see happening in the future, where there's going to be little places you can go, little rooms you can go, have little events and things like this. Anyway, I'm doing one-on-one in-person readings. I only have 2 spots left. So go ahead and grab your spot, because I'd love to see you guys in person. I rarely get to see people in person, and it's something I'm trying out. I did recognize, and this is what I believe in, trial and error. I did it on a day at a time that I grant you, people are like, Adela, I'm probably working that day. I get it. However, with that knowledge, I'll probably next time maybe do it on a weekend. But I had to test the waters, and this is what worked for me. So here we go. Okay. The other announcement is this Saturday, I am doing a Zoom, so you don't have to be in person, psychic development workshop. And all that means is that we're going to practice with each other, practice how, seeing and reading each other. It's very light. It's very fun. It's for all levels of of this. It's beginners to non-beginners. Trust me, it's a very fun time because people really surprise themselves on what they can do. And lastly, this is like really funny to me. So if you again have followed anything that I do or do the work that I do, I always kind of slightly brag, maybe cockily brag a little bit in a weird kind of like I'm different from everyone else way about not being really connected to the moon, just never feeling like a connection to the moon. And my kiddo, being the scientific mind that he is and is into the planet and the earth and all of that stuff and the universe and how it all works, pointed out because I was at the beach and I said, but I love the water. I love the water and I love the beach. I love beach water more than anything. And he's like, well, that is relegated by the moon. Like the moon affects the beach water and how it is and the tides. And so you're connected to the moon. And I was like, interesting. I was like, interesting. Because it's so very true. I realize now. And I have my moon is in Pisces, which is water sign, right? Yeah. And there you go. So I was like, so maybe this is why I'm connected, not connected to the moon directly, but I'm connected to the water because that makes more sense because I like the movement, the energy. I need something to be active. Like I just don't do well. It's like the same thing as people collect tchotchkes and things like this. I'm not that person. If it doesn't have an action, if it doesn't have a movement, it doesn't have a purpose of why it's sitting there on my shelf or doing something. Like even this cup I have right here, if those of you who are watching, I have a little Alice in Wonderland cup on my wall. I can take that off and use it. I'm just kind of one of those people. So maybe it's the whole action and the movement, but I also love the water. So I just thought that was like, this is why you got to listen to the younger generation and embrace them and not be afraid of them. Okay, I'm changing my lighting as you guys are watching because it was bothering me. There you go. Oh, there we go. Little softer lighting. All right, we're going to leave the Medium Brew Cafe. I am behind on my reviews. I have 2 things I want to review. Don't think I forgot. And they're very unique, and I have to order them and then wait for them. And so I will be doing that. But in the meantime, I'm still taking suggestions for reviews. So please feel free and send in your emails to thehousemedium@gmail. Send them in. Hurry up when you're done listening. Okay, well, let's move out of here. And let's get into our email from Nikki. Nikki, I have worked with Nikki, and they go by their pronoun as they, and they have taken my classes, have done mentorship, which I forgot to mention. Ooh, that reminds me. I've changed my mentorships to having 2 1-hour sessions like package or 3 1-hour session packages because I just found a half hour I'm going over the time anyway. And I feel like people feel like they're not getting enough. And I think people were using the half hour session as more of like a reading, and it's not what it's meant for. This is a mentorship. It's for people who want to work on their psychic abilities, or if you want to go professional, or if you want me to help you through a transition and change in your life, meaning like people who are trying to start new careers and such. Anyway, I've worked with Nikki on all these things. Nikki has done all these things, the classes, but they have never wrote to my podcast. And I was like, really, Nikki? Really? You gonna do me like that? Not cool. So they finally did. Because I pressured them. I don't know how I feel about myself, about pressuring them, but you'll see when you hear them, the energy. Oops, I want to like turn this up a little bit. Why isn't it working? Ooh, too much. The energy they bring is just really beautiful. Very good energy. And I feel like you're going to enjoy these two stories that they send. Story 1. Why did I put a D on there? I don't know. The first one takes place when I was in 7th grade. I grew up in a very religious family and spent all of my youth going to Christian churches. At the time, I was starting to question. I gotta turn this down a little bit. Sorry. There we go. I was starting to question my beliefs and felt a lot of anxiety around this. I was starting to make friends who were not religious. I understand that. For those of us who have religious trauma, we understand. I was starting to make friends who were not religious and were honestly not very friendly to my beliefs. I don't consider myself Christian at all. They wrote that in capital letters. Now, but I think I was always a spiritual person, and I was surrounded by people that weren't very receptive to that, so I was feeling very emotional at the time. The scene takes place in a church. I was feeling a lot and starting to cry when I felt a hand on my back. There was no one there. It felt so powerful. It felt like someone was actually touching me. I felt a wave of comfort. This was so strange that I never told anyone, and I buried it in my mind until recently when I was reflecting on whether or not I had any stories. It's a very simple, but I feel this is a powerful little story, and you'll see when I talk to them. So this is the second story. The story also takes place as a teenager, but this time I was a bit older, a sophomore in high school. My boyfriend at the time and I always go up to this graveyard that's near my house. I notice a lot of you just go up to graveyards all the time. And then you wonder why things happen. Near my house. I would visit the graveyard during the day by myself, but we would always go together at night. So interesting. Okay, sorry, we would always go together at night. This boyfriend was not a great guy. Okay, we were already like pissed at the boyfriend. Very controlling and mean. We were sitting in his car when we see this glowing orange gold ball above one of the graves. It was a little off to the side, but perfectly still. It was as if our brains couldn't comprehend what was going on. I remember him saying something along the lines of, "Huh? That's strange. Great observation, jerky boyfriend." That's Adela. At that, I don't like people messing with good people. Okay, anyway, I'm back. And then we never spoke about it again. At the time, I remember wondering if it was a lantern or something, but I was there during the day many times and I never saw a lantern. I never saw a lantern again, and I forgot about this experience until recently. Would love your thoughts. I thought I missed something. Okay. So, these are both quick little stories. And the reason why I had them on is because even though sometimes people send me in little, short stories and I'll put them on the reader's room because there's not a lot of context to it. But because of the incidences and what they are, there's a little more context to it than it appears. And they are both connected to each other more than it appears. So, with that said, here's what I had to say to Nikki. Okay, everybody. So you heard me read the email, and we have a couple of stories to go over. But I have Nikki here. Hi, Nikki.
Hello.
And Nikki,
Happy to
I'm
be
trying to
here.
be like all, make sure that I'm, doing something, being conscious. What's your pronouns you want me to go by?
They, them, please.
Okay, awesome. And I know Nikki for some time, and I totally thought that they were on this podcast already. So I didn't even send instructions. I didn't send links. I was like, oh, yeah, I know, I know, Nikki. I know what's up. And and then they're like, hello, are you sending a link or what's going on? And I realized you haven't been on here. So I've done like a mentorship, I've done classes with you, we've done readings, but you've never. What's up with that? Let's start there. Why
Wait,
haven't you been on earlier on my podcast?
I
What
for
happened?
well, I have trouble writing emails. That's the truth.
Okay.
That's the honest truth. It
Okay.
was like
That's
putting things
honest.
into words is always a struggle.
Okay. I understand. I understand. I don't know if I believe it, but
It's a
I'll
little
pretend I
intimidating.
do.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay, I was going to say that. I was going to say, I don't know if I believe that story altogether, but I will take it. Um, okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to break down everything, and we're going to start with story number one. Okay, I have my little pad with me. Um, iPad. Okay, everyone. I don't mean like pad. Like I didn't write down a pad. I'm not like, I'm still up at the times. All right. So story number one, the hand. I like how you like labeled
I
it,
titled them.
which kind of sounds like that. Sounds like a Adam's Family type of thing. Are you clicking something? We're hearing you click things. What are
Sorry,
you
I was
clicking?
trying to make sure my laptop was plugged in.
Oh, okay. That's important.
I've been having
Ooh,
trouble with there we go. We're good.
the power. Did
Mm.
you hear about the whole Microsoft going down?
Yes, I wanted to ask you about that. It's so
Yeah.
crazy.
What were you
So
going to ask me? Go for it.
I don't know, just like you're always I don't know what you thought. Like it's someone in the comments was like, it's Y2K 24 years later. Like this is what we were all afraid of and it's
It's
happening.
happening
Yeah.
finally. I feel well. It's kind of interesting. I'm glad you brought it up. Wait, no, Adela brought it up, not
Yeah.
Nikki. I'm not you. I'm in my body. Um, it's kind of interesting because I literally had this conversation with my Aunt Betty where I broke down, like, I was trying to explain to her AI. So that's a little tricky for a 91-year-old woman who absolutely doesn't even use a cell phone. So I was explaining her all the things about explaining how the internet works. By the way, I felt like I came up with a really good idea of how to explain the internet. I was like, you remember the radio? And she's like, yes. And I go, imagine if you take the radio and you add like a telephone and now you're talking to people while you're listening to the
Oh.
radio. And she's like, yeah. And I go, now somebody said, what if we add the TV and the telephone and the radio? Because I was telling her
Oh.
like what she remembers, like the radio, and that was a way everyone listened to something at the same time. Because back
Mhm.
then, everyone got the same news and the same information all at the same time, and then they would run and talk to each other about it. And I said, so then remember, so now if you add the telephone where everyone can talk about what's going on the radio, and then you remember she remembers when the TV was invented. So remember if you add the TV, and then I said, now if you have the TV, the radio, and then if you add like being able to type to each other with a typewriter, that's how the
Whoa.
internet works. And she got it because I was basically saying, newspaper, TV, radio, telephone was all separate ways people communicated with each other, and the internet has tied all those together.
Yeah.
And totally got it. It worked. And then I said, now here's AI. So I'm explaining all this stuff. And she's like, I go, but don't be afraid of it because everything good there someone can use for bad. Like you can invent this like wonderful, like I have a hair clip right here and I could take it and like poke someone in the eye. So no matter what you do, someone's going to try. And because human nature is the warped,
Mhm.
part, right?
Yeah.
I get home and they're like, all the computers are down. I literally, not even joking, I get home, hang up, and they're like, Microsoft is down. I'm like, oh shit, if Aunt Betty hears this, she's gonna be like, you know what? I knew that those computers are evil. But but I feel like what I did say to her, and I'll say this for everybody listening and to you, is that I hate to say this, but from now until probably January, a lot crazy shit's going to happen. And it's going to kind of be, I feel like there's a combination of an energy. I know they're telling people they found the problem. Do I believe that totally? Not really.
Mhm.
Because I think they said they found there was a glitch in the programming.
Mhm.
It's a little hard pill to swallow. Do I feel that's true? Do I want to go on record to say not really?
Yeah.
Do I feel like it's a conspiracy? No, I don't feel like it's a conspiracy, but I do feel like what I just told my Aunt Betty also this morning was I think chaos is going to be pushed a lot and fear
Ooh.
to create fear.
Oh.
Because I think during this time when we're going into this, you know, as things are changing and hands are changing, um, I feel like fear and getting chaos into the air is absolutely going to be something that's going to keep happening. I'm sorry to say.
Ugh, I can't handle any more chaos.
I know. I think that you got to know is the finish line is coming though, because my prediction, so to speak, is that because we're moving fast into a new world where the old ways are dying and they're going to continue to die and they're going to die and go away, the old grips holding on to it are trying desperately to keep it alive. So
Mhm.
when that happens, you have desperation of trying to like freak people out, get people scared and break people down and make people lose hope and go, okay, fine, whatever. That's what I
Yeah.
feel is happening. And so I do feel something's wonky about what happened today.
Mhm.
Because it's like, it's hard to go, Microsoft had a little glitch and, hey, sorry guys, this isn't your average, like, oh man, I couldn't log on to my, onto my Word, program. It's not that. So
Yeah.
it's something else. What is that what you were asking?
Yeah, you just like I don't know, I was watching your like future predictions video on Instagram, like that
Mhm.
two-part thing
Right.
and then I saw the Microsoft thing and I was like, "Oh my gosh, what is happening?" Like
Yeah, I feel like there's going to be a lot of things like that because we are shifting into a whole new way of we're going to be doing things in the world. And so I do believe like it's going to feel a little crazy, a little bumpy.
Mhm.
It's not going to be as scary for younger people. It's scary for younger people because you guys been through a lot.
Yeah.
But it's actually a lot more scary for the older people, and the older people are going to create panic,
Mm.
meaning like older people in power are trying to create panic, and even older people um, around you in the air. I just don't see, I feel like a lot of the changes that are going to be coming, younger people are going to adapt quite fine. And I should say, wait, awake people, to be fair.
Mhm.
So don't drop into the fear part.
Yeah.
Just kind of go, interesting. Okay, we're moving into a new time.
Mhm.
So don't panic.
Okay, I'll try not to panic, Adela.
Did it
Hopefully, I'm
make you
young
feel
enough.
panicky?
No, I mean, I'd be panicked whether or not you were telling me these things. But no, everything you said and the way that you talk about change and like the way you've talked about AI has put me at ease a lot and made me realize like we have we can adapt. Like there has been always been like big changes and like new
Mhm.
technology, and it's things feel different now than ever, obviously, but like the way you talk about it feels at the least like we're going to be okay, but you do also make it sound like change sound really positive.
Yeah, the change is going to be positive, but like always in life, change is scary because we're not used to it. It's not as familiar. It's not as comfortable, but it's going to be for the positive. Let's put it this way. I'll leave it at this, and we'll get to your email. Like I said to my Aunt Betty, I said, AI is going to come along and say, why are you guys driving in metal boxes with gas tanks? That's stupid. We have a better way. Here, do this. That's how I feel like. And who doesn't want that to happen? The auto industry, right?
Mm.
So that's why there's a death grip to not have the change happen.
Hmm.
Or they want the power over this super genius brain.
Yeah.
You see? So that's what's happening. The
Hmm.
problem is they're really no match for the younger generation. And yes, that includes you.
Yay.
And what I mean by that is that this generation, the younger generations are keeping going, we're not sticking to the old ways, no matter what you guys are trying to do. So we're moving forward anyway. And we're not going to obviously go back to your stupid ways. So it's not happening. So
Hmm.
don't worry. And the spirit world is a part of that too.
Hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
Okay.
right. Well, we went into a whole thing, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get to the hand. The first one takes place when you were in seventh grade. Okay. So then you're a very religious family and your beliefs and felt a lot of anxiety around this and all this. Okay. So the Christian thing, we get it. You're having all this shit around that. So take us through the whole scene of that. Like, what did you
Yeah.
experience?
I remember like that was a really tough time for me because I was making a whole a bunch of new friends. Like all of my friends were changing because going into junior high,
Okay.
and I grew up very religious, like I said, and was starting to like question. I have a lot of like pressure from other people in my social group around like my religious beliefs. And now
Okay.
I'm not a Christian, but I've come back to like exploring my spirituality. I was
Mhm.
atheist for a while,
Mhm.
and now I'm definitely spiritual. Um but that was like this transition period where like things were starting to break down. Like I was grew up like in a very strict religious environment, and I had all these new friends like questioning those things, and um it was really emotional. Like I felt a lot of guilt all the time. Like the Christian guilt was like
Mhm.
really
Mhm.
strong. And I yeah, was just started to cry in church, and I felt this hand, like it felt like someone was touching me. It felt that real on my back, and I like instantly felt calmer. And yeah, that memory I just like forgot, like put somewhere in my brain and didn't think about until
So
recently.
so you were you like praying in church?
I was I can't remember if I was praying at that moment, but I was that was the time that I was still praying. So I was probably um I could have been praying at the time, or just kind of like that church, they it could have been like during the music or
Okay.
um
And to be clear, you turned around, there was no actual physical person touching you because this is church. You know how it is. All of a sudden, people are like, hello, sister. Are you
yeah.
okay? You know what I mean? That's the church experience, at least my church experience, or like, oh, are you okay? You know, God's talking to you. Like, people will, in other words, there's no boundaries in church. People will
Mhm.
just come up to you and start put their hand on you. I could see that totally happening. So you knew for sure there wasn't a
Yeah,
physical person.
there was not a
Okay.
physical person. And even, like,
Okay.
even saying it out now, my brain's starting to be like, "Did this actually happen?" Like, it was just
That's
so weird.
normal.
Yeah.
That's normal. That's normal. That's when you kind of know something happened because you start to almost feel weird and doubt it. So don't worry about that. Okay. All right. So is that the whole story? Is that everything? Okay.
Yeah.
What type, can I ask you what type of, what denomination it is?
Yeah, that was one of those, like, non-denominational churches.
Like everybody just come and worship with us. Okay.
Yeah, and
Okay.
they
All
play,
right.
electric guitars and stuff.
Yeah. I know the type. They're like,
It's
we're
like,
the cool
we're
church.
the cool
We're the
church.
cool church. We play electric guitars. We have goatees.
We have
We wear flip
coffee.
flops. We have coffee. Like, we're not like uptight, okay? We're like the cool Jesus Christ.
That's exactly what it was like. I grew up going to evangelical and Protestant churches, so by that
Okay.
point I had a lot of religious trauma in the mix. So,
1000%. I love my favorite thing that has come up, when, I feel like in the past 5 years is that term religious trauma. Because I think until then, people don't realize, at least for my growing up, and I grew up religious, I had trauma too. And I just called it like, I didn't call it religious trauma. I just called it like, you know, hatred and horribleness and bad feelings. Like there wasn't a term for like, this has fucked me up. Basically,
mhm.
that's what it was called. It was like, it's a fuck me up thing that happened
Yeah.
being in church. But religious trauma is a real thing. And it made me go to be an atheist as well, and it made me say, fuck anything spiritual, which is why when I opened my abilities in my early 20s, I shut it down or ran away from it because I said, I don't know if I believe in God. Oh,
Sounds familiar.
sounds
like
familiar. I
like
just realized.
yeah.
Yes, somebody did mentorship because they were going to like start doing the things, but that's okay. That's okay. Um, yeah, so I ran away from it because I was like, well, I know I don't believe in God. Fuck all that shit. So I don't know how I'm protecting myself from all these things. So I guess I'm just gonna like not do anything. So I understand. You kind of have to purge everything to kind of decide what you want to bring into your life. Totally makes sense.
Mhm.
And I get it. Okay, I love the second story. It's called The Orb. So this one's like very horror film-ish. It's like The Orb. We're
Yeah.
at the cemetery as teenagers
Yep.
with your boyfriend. I mean, it has all the, come on.
We used to go to the cemetery a lot. I used to go alone a lot as well, but yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I've been going. I'm actually thinking of doing an episode, a podcast episode of me going to the cemetery.
Ooh.
Now that I know how to record better, because first time I tried it was kind of a disaster. But now I know what I'm doing. I think I'm going to do that. But so I totally understand going to the cemetery. Now I will say I didn't do it as a teenager, so you sound a lot cooler than me. So take us through cemetery day night. Was it night?
It was night. It
Okay,
was
so you're
night.
even cooler. Cemetery night with the boyfriend.
Oh.
Teenagers. I mean,
Yeah.
everything goes right in the horror films when we see a teenager at a cemetery.
Oh
Two
my
teenagers
god. I
in
don't know what
love.
we're
Okay.
thinking.
All right.
Well, he
Well,
was
you were young and fun.
that's
Yeah.
true. I don't know what happened. I will not go to cemetery. I won't go anywhere at night anymore. Out in the like I gotta be in a building at night. Mm.
Listen, when you're young, you when you're that age, you literally kind of think, what's going to happen. You start thinking that. You kind of have that mentality. You think you're kind of in, You're like a superhero
Yeah.
until you experience things in life and then you go, oh shit can happen. I've learned. That's why as people get older, they get a little crazier. They're like, and I have the band-aids and I have a balloon just in case. You never know. Like you start to become that way. I'm serious. Like I'm like, man, I used to like I took off to New York with like $300 in my pocket and like when I was 19 and went like, I don't know, I'll wing it.
What could
And
happen?
today I can't even leave the house without a whole pack full of things. And
Yeah.
then I'll go, Adela, you could stop at the store or something. Like you're not going to the desert. But it's a weird when you've lived through certain things, you're like, no, no, I thought that before and my car broke down and I was up Shit's Creek. So you start to kind of get that way. Not to mention when you have spiritual gifts, you are more sensitive to a graveyard. Because I really honestly had to learn how to block all of those dead people for before I could go to cemeteries like I do now. For a while I couldn't. So that could be it too. So take us through the story. Yeah,
Yeah.
just saying. I'm just dropping it in for
Yeah.
them.
No, that's a good point. Um, so yeah, we used to just like drive around anywhere at night trying to find like a place to hang out other than our parents' houses. So there was this really old cemetery up the hill from my parents that I used to go to all the time during the day after school,
Mm-hmm.
and as you do. and
One does. Yeah.
and so we were there one night, and this, like, full disclosure, this boyfriend was awful. Like, he was just straight up world's most horriblest boyfriend, and was just like not a very nice person, and
Okay.
kind of controlling, well, pretty controlling. um and we were sitting there and we saw, like, there was this old grave, and then directly above it and slightly to the right from like my vision was this, just, it looked very orange but like goldish orb, perfectly still, like glowing. And we were just like, what's that? And the other person was like, I don't know. And then that's all we spoke about it. Never spoke about it again. And at the time, I thought, like, oh, it has to be a lantern or something. Like, my brain, that was before I even, like, knew what, that other people see orbs and things like that. Like, in my brain, it was like, oh, it must be some weird lantern. I was like, is someone like having some sort of seance or something?
Yeah.
And but we didn't see any people there. And then
Mm-hmm.
I'd go there during the day all the time, and I didn't see like a lantern or light or anything. And same as the hand story, like, it went into some vault in my brain, and just within the past like year or so I thought of it and was like, oh, huh. Like, I just remembered it. Yeah.
It could be something.
I felt very like, it didn't really feel scary so much as like I was kind of like in awe of it. And it did like feel creepy because of the setting.
Do you know, like, you don't happen to know, you obviously didn't look and see what tombstone it was next to.
No, I
Okay.
didn't.
Okay. Okay. I'm ready for you. All right,
Okay,
let's go.
cool.
I changed the music to be a bit of a mood. So, my feeling when I was looking at the church setting, it felt kind of cool actually. Like the energy, I should say. It felt very magical. That's the best word to describe. I kept looking and trying to see if it was a person. I really don't feel like it was a person. Now, I get a little like apprehensive because I'm like, listen, religion, I'm not giving you your whole like angel props, okay? Because I know it's what you want me to do. That's my religious trauma speaking. And
Mhm.
I don't even feel like it was an angelic. It does feel like a higher being, though. That's the best way. Is it angelic? Could be. But you know me, I kind of link higher beings to be deities, angels, aliens, all sorts of things. But I really felt like it was actually something trying to say to you, you don't have to really, because I do feel like I see a woman, but I
Mhm.
don't have the, it doesn't feel like a connection at all to you. It almost was like not even a, sorry, not even a connection to the church per se, meaning like, you guys conjured up something with the church. Let's just put that way, that, belief. It kind of felt like it was what does happen around you, because I happen to know Nikki has, and they're not going to tell you guys this, a strong mediumship gift that they're working on.
Mhm.
And I kind of felt like that's what it reminded me of like a spirit that kind of knows, but not really a spirit that just died or something. It would kind of be, that's why I said it feels more like of a higher being. It definitely feels spiritual. And I think I'm just being a little bit of an asshole because I don't want to say angel because it was a church, but it feels angelic
Mhm.
ish. So, what I would say to that is it feels like, how if for people who don't know, I believe guides kind of work in like a collective whole, and then they kind of step out of that collective whole to kind of make a point to get you to feel them or see them or listen to them. So they'll create like an image of themselves. And that's what it feels like. It felt like something was trying to say to you don't have to do all this. You can just be yourself.
Mhm.
Like you're going through all this hard time because you feel like you should have or you have to, or what you think being a spiritual person looks like, or being a quote good person. Like it was almost like you were wrestling with all these things internally, and
Mhm.
this higher being was like, you don't have to do that. So that's what I felt like when I saw it.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like a person who just died. It was like, hey, how you doing? It doesn't feel like that. And it doesn't feel like an archangel type of energy. It felt what people need to, I just want to be clear when I say guides, I believe guides work in a collective work. So it's kind of imagine parents work together, ideally, right?
Mhm.
Ideally, parents work together. Let's say ideally your school and your parents work together. Ideally, your parents, your school, and your doctors work together to help you. That's
Mhm.
pretty much how that realm is, but they kind of work in unison more. So I feel like something wanted you to be very clear you were being helped and heard. So it kind of stepped out of the group and was like, hey, so it felt very much of a higher being energy.
Mhm.
What do you feel about that?
That feels, I mean, that feels in line with like how it felt and how I've thought about it. Like, of course, there's that part of me that's like, maybe I was just emotional and imagining things. But then there's the other part that's like, it did feel like someone reaching out to kind of say like, you don't have to worry about this, and like you're gonna be okay.
Yes. Yeah, it feels like something was also trying to, this is what I get, was trying to nudge you and say, you know, you can be your true self. That's what I keep hearing.
Yeah, because I like felt very torn in two directions of like wanting to impress all these new cool friends,
Right.
not wanting to like, because I was still like believed my like beliefs weren't like broken down at that point. And as I'm like getting in touch with my spirituality again, and like reflecting back on that time, it does make me feel really sad that I felt like I had to give up like all of my beliefs. It was like one or the other.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, so that's what I feel like was happening. And interesting enough, if we go into scene 2 and into the cemetery, which I feel like was, an awesome setting. I feel they're very connected, to be honest. The
Mm,
gold orb isn't so fitting towards spirits. Again, it's more fitting to angelic
mm,
energy. So I've seen gold light. I've always worked with gold light when I work with that higher being energy to help protect and put a protective energy around us. Um, so I feel like something again was nudging you again, going, hello, come on, wake up. What the fuck are you doing? Obviously, this is an asshole. This isn't the right setting. I also feel like it was trying to scare him and
mm,
trying to talk to you. It's sometimes those beings will do things like, yeah, this one, don't fuck with this one. Like if you're connected to those types of things and you having a gift, they will try to nudge you and they'll try to kind of, I want to say like freak people out, but kind of in a way saying like, hey, I know that they can see us normally.
mm,
They can see me. They can see this realm. And we're going to like let you see what they're made of. It's almost like more to do with you than the cemetery because the gold orbs isn't so much. Like if it was white or you saw a shadow person, I would say that had more to do with the spirit realm.
mhm.
But let me ask you a question. What happened after that cemetery trip? Did you break up?
No, unfortunately not. We 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 dated for like 4 years, and then even like a couple years after that, he was like in my life, um
Mhm.
and he also was like very critical of my like beliefs in anything. He was very
Yes.
like logic
Right.
based.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's why I'm telling you my experience, and I've had this experience with somebody once in my past with somebody around me not believing in these things. My feeling is and there's those bumps are natural, right? I don't want people to think cuz I'm hearing like little noises. Is there someone there with you?
Yeah, my partner just like went into the bathroom
Okay.
outside. I'm
I
sorry,
just I
everybody.
No, you don't have to apologize. I just know how people are like, "Yes," and
It's a spirit.
the spirits are there. So we want to be full disclosure. There's no bumps in the night happening right now. But yeah, so I feel that there was a call like trying to wake you up and did it in front of him on purpose to kind of say, yeah, this shit's real, but it does happen where sometimes you just still kind of like shut it down and ignore it. But I feel like both of those are what was happening.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. When you started talking like about your description in the first about the first story, I felt myself having trouble. Like I felt a lot. Like if I felt like I was having trouble like staying grounded a little bit.
Hmm.
Um
Yeah, because that's home. That's your family from that realm. That's
mhm.
what I'm trying to say is that there's like a family from that realm I call like where you almost start to kind of remember what it feels like and who they are, and it's a different energy.
Yeah.
So kind of imagine if you're sent like on a trip around the world and you leave people behind and you kind of get used to it. You're like, oh, I've been traveling, and you almost kind of like get used to that you aren't around your old friends and things like this, but then you like start to you get a phone call or you get something and you're like, oh, that's right, these people, I'm connected to them. That's what I feel like was happening in this time.
Yeah.
It's like, wake
Whoa.
up, Nikki, wake up, Nikki, wake up. Wake up. That's what it is like. And it
Yeah.
just was fitting that it was in a cemetery in front of him, maybe to try to shake him up or get him a little nervous. But obviously, he didn't get nervous enough to. But if it was up to you, like if you handled it saying, I know what I saw, I know what I believe in, it might have, that path might have gone differently.
Yeah.
But, mhm, that's
Yeah,
okay.
he did seem like a little bit freaked
Freaked
out
out,
by it. Like our reactions were different. And
different.
I do get really calm when like anything intense is happening, but
Hmm.
I feel like our reactions to it were very different. Um I've
Yeah,
been
because, yeah, go ahead.
I've just been like reflecting a lot about like little instances where I feel like maybe I was something was trying to pull me into this path that I
Hmm.
ignored.
Yes.
um yeah.
Yes, that happens. Yeah, no, they're laughing because I pretty much have been like saying this for some time.
Yeah. And right
But
now I'm like there's a big part of my brain that's like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm moving forward. I'm following this path. And then there's another part that does, I think, feel, especially with the guide stuff, gets a little reactive because of religious
religion, yeah, but
paths.
that's why I think you got to think of it a much more. It's really much more. It's really much more like the internet. There's like a collective group of people that talk about stuff and say, "Hey, listen, we've posted some stuff for you that could help you with things."
Mm-hmm.
And then you're like, "Well, I just kind of like this particular one," and they're like, "Sure, go with that particular one." But there's a wealth of collective information. That's what people don't understand. I think the misconception people have with guides is they think guides are like following you around and just guiding your life. Like, well, I think what bothers me, and religion tries to use this to, because it's enticing to people, as like we're the center of everything. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you have these beings that are trying to help you do everything, and it feels good to be like, I have a mommy and a daddy and they're taking care of me, and I'm the center of the universe. But that is not how guides work. They're kind of more like, well, we got your attention. Like you were sitting there and you were like praying, or you were in that space, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, while they're kind of open and their spirit's open and they're kind of there, let's kind of get them to feel us right now.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. It's like, we're responding to this call you're putting out. But it's
Mm-hmm.
not like angels like, come here, my child, and step into the light. It's not like so much the indoctrinating you. It's more
Yeah.
like we can like work together on stuff, and not to mention guides have more of an idea of where we're pretending we're a singular entity so that you feel more comfortable with it, but we're kind of not a singular entity.
Yeah. That
That's
makes
why, like,
sense.
people are so obsessed on, like, who's my guides? It's because we were like, I have all these people just like worried about me all the time. That's what it feels good. And I did believe that when I first started, until one day it started changing and I started realizing, oh, wait a minute. This whole time that like when I first read, I used to write people's guides down. And before you got there, I wrote down and described your guide. And then over time, one time the guide looked like the person who walked through the door, because I used to write it all down before you would get there.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is the guide, not. And then I heard, you've never been talking to guides, you've been talking to their spirit and
Mm-hmm.
tuning into them. But we kind of made all that other stuff up because we knew that's what you felt comfortable with, rather than knowing you're actually already tuning into the person.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say they were talking to me, it was kind of like the teachers I always talk about who kind of help. So it's, I don't want to get like totally crazy and lost in this podcast, but just to be clear, my perception of guides is like there's a collective whole working together, and then they'll separate themselves out because we live separate on this planet.
Mhm.
So when there's an opportunity to get you to feel like, okay, listen, you do connect to these things, be aware that you do, then that one hand is like a perfect way to make you feel like something is connecting with you.
Mhm.
But I understand. I understand what you're saying about the whole religious part of it.
Yeah.
But, this all seems like a wake up call for Nikki.
Yeah, honestly. It's good timing to like be reflecting on that time.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds pretty cool. Well,
Mhm.
thanks for coming on
Thank
finally.
you. Yay.
And thank you for sharing these stories and getting into deep. We went deep. See, at first I was going to use Alice in Wonderland, which would have been fitting also going down the rabbit hole. But I like this energy because this is what I felt. Soon as I tuned into what the church energy was, I changed the music
Yeah,
because
this
this
feels
is what it
fitting.
feels fitting.
Mhm.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks so
Bye bye.
much. Bye.
Sure. Woo! So there you go. Did you catch that? So I firmly believe when you have abilities and you keep ignoring them, because I know because I've lived it, and you feel like random things and weird things keep happening, and you kind of chalk it up to like life, let's say, and that's just the way, weird things happen. But the gold light, the gold ball, is what, if you've ever done a meditation or have watched any meditation I've put out there, I always start with the gold light and see it as a ball going around and protecting you and moving around. And the feeling of being in the church. Now, the reason I felt like it was angelic has nothing to do really with the church. The same thing could have happened to Nikki if they were sitting in a park alone or anywhere. It was because the energy they were tuning into was kind of more of to the higher beings, meaning they were looking for comfort. They were having a hard time. They were feeling connected to something. And so those energies kind of feel your energy and they talk back and they ensure you and comfort you and let you know that you're not alone and that they hear you and that they're there for you. So, with that said, I feel like that's what was happening with Nikki. On both occasions, they're also trying to wake them up. Wake up. Because Nikki happens to have a very raw but talented gift in the mediumship realm. I don't think they mind me sharing that. And that's like one of the ones that is very hard to succumb to, very hard. Because most people don't like to give in to that one, or most people don't even have that one. And I know lots of readers who don't even want that one because it's a very difficult path. And I get the sense that there was pieces of Nikki that they were running away from that piece of themselves. So I feel like what was happening is there was like something trying to wake them up and put them kind of in a self-awareness and to realize that they're not alone. And that is why angels to me are kind of on the same, and I'm wearing my alien earrings here, on the same realm of aliens. They're not human. They're not of this world. They're not of the human world. So I feel they're all kind of one and the same. And so I feel like that's what was happening with them for sure. I also feel like uh, it'll happen at different times in your life and in different ways. So just remember when you're opening yourself up to that realm, the way you may get a response may not be in the way you thought it would. And if you do have religious trauma, it can be hard to not adhere to this idea that an angel's watching over you, almost like watching every move you're making, what you're doing. And, in some ways, it's always presented a little bit judgy and all that kind of stuff. Just kind of remove that and kind of look at angels as being kind of a higher being, or who have a higher understanding, or look at the world through a different lens. So because they are not human, so it will help you get past the religious trauma. Anyway, I thought this was a very special one. It was a little more gentle, a little bit more like reflective and going within and feeling, who we are and being kind of more connected. And I feel like sometimes with this podcast, I'll do all this stuff that kind of be really trippy and all that. And then there'll always be one that kind of drops us in to that inner like self and the consciousness, and, kind of coming into more of a softer place, gives us a little break. And I think we all can use that, as so much is swirling around us right now. Now, with that said, I still would like to see what Zoltar would have to say. Do I? Maybe next time. I feel like I saved that for next time. And I also use Zoltar in my live readings that I do on YouTube, which if you're subscribed to my YouTube channel, you'll get a notice. If not, and you won't, I post it on my Instagram. But remember, for those of you who want to join in on the psychic workshop that's coming on Saturday, it's for all people. Please go to my website, and I'd love to see some of you in person in the seance room. And this cool location has a bunch of different rooms. It's going to be a little different. Trust me, you're going to be like, oh, this is different. It will, but it's going to be cool with the facility at. And if not, then I'll see you online on my TikTok, on Instagram, on my Patreon, and my YouTube, and all that. But remember, things are not always just random like we think. And sometimes something is trying to get your attention. So listen up. Follow yourself. Follow no one. Listen to your inner voice. And I'll see you soon.